Hey, man, let's get into the AFC North. I want to get into some ideas and some storylines, some burning questions for those teams in the AFC North today as we go through all the divisions again. But this time, instead of trying to rank what they're going to do this year, get into more of the questions that are within those ideas of what's holding them back or what might drive them forward and things like that. So we're going to do the AFC North. I'm Luke. That's Michael. This is We Are the Game. Without any ado whatsoever, this is way too much been out there. Get us started with Cleveland whenever you, sir, are ready.
All right. Well, Cleveland, I think the main storyline there is really there's quarterback chaos there. At least from the outside looking in, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of experience in that clubhouse. There's a lot of youth in that clubhouse. What are they going to do? How are they going to do it? What's going to come of that? Both in terms of who they're going to point to, as well as what do you expect that they'll get out of that? I think this is the defining question for Cleveland going into the season. When you look at the group as a whole, what do you see out of that?
What my guess would be that Flacco will probably win the job out of camp. That Gabriel and Sanders in particular are probably a little too raw, and that he's got so much experience. He's going to be able to run the offense. It's not going to be about the arm talent or the mobility and all that stuff. It's going to be he learned terminology real quick. One, because I think he's been there before with this current offense, so he's going to walk in and already have a leg up on him. The question is more, how early will one of them take the job? I think Kenny Pickett is basically just there pulling a check, and good for him. I'm not even sure that he'll actually make the 53-man roster, if I'm being completely honest. But you never know. Some teams run 4 quarterbacks, and they're only kind of running 4 quarterbacks because they've got Deshaun Watson as the 5th-ish. So I'd say it's Flacco. One question I'd have is how many games will he actually play? 5, and then maybe some guy takes over if the team's kind of floundering, and the team's probably going to flounder. But we'll see. And I'm not sure if it's going to be Sanders or Gabriel, but yeah, that's kind of how I see that rolling out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you in general principle that it'll be Flacco out of the gate. I think Jerry Jeudy there, he had such a great season with some unknowns last season. I'll be interested to see who can help him get some stats this year with that. And I feel like this is just an absolute roll of the dice at this point behind Flacco. And no matter which one of those guys emerges, what a transformationally different look that will be from what Joe Flacco is now and never was. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting thing to look at because it's a big change whenever they do make it a change. And I think it's a bad sign for this team if at week 8, Flacco is still playing anytime at all. So yeah, I think that's a major storyline. I think the other one that's fairly straightforward and goes to my heart is, what is life like without Nick Chubb there? Because he's such a pressure release for the offense in so many ways. At least that's how I look at him. What do you think about what Cleveland is missing, or will that be a big impact given what they're trying to do this season in discovering their quarterback? And do you think the other guys there can kind of help pick up that load?
I mean, yeah, they're gonna feel it. He's been, when healthy, he's like a top 5 or 6 running back, something like that. Where he has been. We'll see what Houston gets out of him this year, and that'll be fun because I enjoy watching Houston. But they're replacing him. I think their hope is that they can replace him mainly with Quinshon Judkins. And I like what I saw out of him in college, but there's always that question of what is the guy going to do when he gets to the NFL. So they'll have kind of a young group. There's a couple of names that I know. Jerome Ford, I think, is there and such. But if you're looking for a guy to step up and be your new number 1, Jerome Ford, I don't think is that guy. He's a serviceable running back, and he knows their system, I believe. But you're hoping that Judkins steps up year 1 and just becomes that guy who you can really count on. So that's their hope. But that they're going to just immediately have Nick Chubb sequel is a bit unreasonable as an expectation. So, yeah, it will be different. But different has been the flavor of the offseason for them. And so lots of new quarterbacks, new running back, new lots of stuff. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. What do you think about that?
No, I agree with you. I just think that I agree with everything you said there. And I definitely worry about how much more strain that's going to put on that quarterback situation that we're talking about, and how ready they will be to move one of those younger quarterbacks in earlier versus later. So we'll have to see. Who knows? One of those guys may absolutely shock us. We've definitely had some player shocks in the recent past. With that being said, let's go talk about one of their main competitors that probably won't make their life any easier, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, well, the main question with the Pittsburgh Steelers is it's not a big secret. It's Aaron Rodgers, and is he really going to turn them into a contender on offense? Last year they had bursts of functional offense. They brought in Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator that had been with the Falcons for a while. Aaron Rodgers, I would take right now over either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields in most systems. I think if I was running like what Baltimore has, I think Justin Fields' skill set makes more sense. But outside of that, most scenarios, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. He's got a long relationship with Mike Tomlin of just respect. It's not, obviously they haven't been on the same team before. But I think that there's the possibility for this to work out pretty well. And obviously, as is implied with the headline there, or the header, can he stay healthy? And he really, other than what that's alluding to with the Jets, he has stayed really healthy in his career. He's played through injuries and he's avoided the really bad ones. So I have some optimism for them. They will be one of the more entertaining ones to watch. Do they have enough weapons around him? They brought in DK, but they lost. I always want to say Pickett, but it's Pickens, And so they lost him. So we'll see what he can do. But then that brings me to their second question. For me, all the big questions about them are not about their defense, because their defense has very consistently been great year after year. So the next big question is, what's their running back room really going to look like this year? Because I really like Tyler Warren and I like Cordero Patterson, but I haven't really seen Jalen Warren. I'm still doing it. Jalen Warren. I like Jalen Warren, but I haven't really seen him as a one. He always seemed like this great complimentary guy. So what can they do together? Cordero Patterson's 34 years old, going on 35. He may be 35 by the time the season starts. I can't remember exactly, but they're getting up there. Do they have enough of a running game to try to be reasonable? So, what do you think of these guys?
Well, kind of going back to the Aaron Rodgers thing real quick. I agree with you. Like, from a polish standpoint and all of that, I still see Aaron putting up a lot there. My only concern is they get, the line last year gave up about 50-ish sacks on Russell Wilson and Fields, who are both experienced quarterbacks. They're significantly more mobile and slippery than Aaron is. And, I'm concerned about his health, especially given the time that we saw him with the Jets and the things that happened there. So, can he stay away from that? And is it enough that he has one of the fastest, time to get the ball out of his hand when a play starts in the NFL? Is that going to protect him in those scenarios? That's going to be intriguing to see. As far as the running backs go, I'm intrigued to see what the rookie they got as well join that room. Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. What is he? What does he bring to that? How does that work? But yeah, will this be a productive running back core? I am not sure. I'm not sure. I don't hate the way they're built. I just don't know how functionally good they are in the field. So, and I think they need them. I think to compete in this group, they need a functional running game. So, yeah, we'll see. Any other thoughts on the running game outside of that?
Yeah, no, I've heard similar things, that maybe Caleb does step up and become the one, or become a big part of their committee.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful. I'd love to see them with a great run game again. But I don't know. So another part of me really enjoyed seeing Jaylen Warren last year, and I'd love to see him kind of get the chance that Tony Pollard got with Dallas a couple of years ago. So
Absolutely.
We'll see what they can do there, but it'll be entertaining. And if the pass game has improved even slightly, then that'll help the running backs as well. So we'll see what we get there. But yeah, tell me about Cincinnati.
Well, Cincinnati, I mean, that offense, I think still is the story with that, can these two guys, continue to put up stellar numbers with Higgins? He's not there. But, that's such a dynamic offense, and Joe Burrow's ability to kind of fit the ball into tight spaces. We talk with other teams about how quarterbacks are good at short passes, medium passes, but, oh, wait, he's not great at long passes or whatever. And Joe Burrow, his ability to do all three really well, I think stands out. I also think that from the defensive side of the ball, there's a lot of positives there to work with. Even though they did give up quite a few points last year, I think we'll see them come up a little bit. But the question really is, can they take this division? Especially with Baltimore hovering there, and if they can, do they have another chance to press on towards a Super Bowl? Because I wonder how big their window is. But what are your thoughts on what Cincinnati is, and are they really ready, you think, this season to kind of overcome the shortcomings of last season and work towards taking the division?
I mean, their offense leaves very little to be desired. Like it is. It is it's quite strong. It is multi-dimensional. So, I mean, their run game works better than you'd think it might have with what was his name?
Chase
Brown. Is that right?
Yep.
I kind of came out of nowhere, but I mean, he was working last year. Obviously, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, they're great. Mike Gesicki was really good last year. So they know how to plug in the right guys, and Joe Burrow seems to know how to bring a lot out of them. So I have zero concerns about their offense. There's the same old, what if they all get injured? Well, sure. But outside of that, schematically, I have no issues with their offense at all. I really do think it's going to hinge on what their defense can do. So, I guess that's all I'd really have for that one.
Yeah, and then kind of a follow-on to that. So I think that the background story for the Bengals is not so much centric directly to this year, although I wonder what kind of background stresses it will apply. There's a little bit of contract year challenge for this team looking ahead to next year and what will be there in place and what won't be. This guy who is fairly productive is going to be, I think, the cornerstone of that conversation is, okay, how do we lock these guys down with some of the stellar talent that they understandably need to pay top dollar for. I'll be very interested to see how that plays out. What do you think? Do you think they hold on to him, and do you think that this will cause problems this year, or do you also think that this is kind of like the closing of their window?
If it's the first part, will they keep him? I honestly think in the end they'll work something out and he'll get his pay. It's probably one of those things where maybe he wants 1 year more than they want to do, or he wants more of it guaranteed than they're wanting to do, or something like that. But I do think eventually they'll get it sorted out. And the same topic as their rookie in the first round, they took Shamar Stewart. They still haven't extended him. Not extended him. They haven't even signed his rookie contract yet. There's been some hold up there. Not sure what it was. Something about the language, and lawyer talk, and stuff that's way over my head. But so there were some issues there. It seems to be some structural problem with the way they do deals there in Cincinnati, and just a disconnect with the players. Will he make a difference if he's gone? Absolutely. You take a good player off a bad defense and you got a really terrible defense. I remember the years where Aaron Donald was one of the only good players that the Rams had. It was there was this period between their Super Bowl run and where they are now, where they've got this new stable of young guys who are just killing it. I hate it, but he was the only good guy, and you triple him, and then you could kind of do whatever you wanted, and so that might be what they're looking at.
Sure.
So again, I believe they brought in a new defensive coordinator. I want to say it's the guy from Notre Dame, and he's going to be trying to coach up young guys. He's used to being around young guys. So maybe you get some real improvement there just because he's scheming more productively. But time will tell. So I hope they do. And if they don't, I hope he becomes a Cardinal and otherwise stays out of the NFC West.
No, I can appreciate that. All right, well let's jump over and talk about their main roadblock to taking the division, Baltimore. What do you think on Baltimore? What's the story over there?
Well, the biggest thing for Baltimore is kind of what you alluded to, but for another team. So if Baltimore is Cincinnati's roadblock to getting where they want to go, then Kansas City is theirs. And I know it's also Buffalo's. It's pretty much everyone in the AFC's roadblock to getting to where they really want to go. But they have just stymied them every chance they get. And they're right. It's very much so like Buffalo. Regular season, they'll get the win, it seems like. But in the postseason, I know last year they didn't because Isaiah Likely and 1-inch foot thing and all that. But
yeah,
like they just can't get past them. And that's the big question. And it's one of those where in some ways I feel like Baltimore, we're just waiting for the postseason. Like they're gonna go to the postseason. It seems like they will inevitably run into Kansas City. Can they get past them this year? What do you think? Has something changed that should make that more achievable this year, or?
I mean, part of me wonders about how achievable it really has been already. You know, some days I kind of look at them and I think, man, they're just kind of been on the wrong way of some 50-50 games. I mean, they played Kansas in the first, 3 games of the season, where Kansas, I didn't feel like had as many question marks as Baltimore. I think you and I talked right after that like, well, what did they even pick up Derrick Henry for? You know, all they're doing is running Lamar the whole time. And I still think Lamar's mindset in that game was, I have to do it all. And he hadn't gotten over that, like, I just need to spread the ball in a different way than I'm used to. And then once he did that, I think things got progressively better. So I think to me, maybe the biggest impact difference might be how Baltimore refines their uses of Derrick Henry in that offense, and just finds nuanced ways of utilizing that will help them over that bump. I think outside of that, I think that they have the right pieces to beat Kansas. In a weird way, I'm almost more scared for them in the Bills, because they just seem to get played hard by the Bills whenever they run into each other. Josh Allen just does what we would say normally of Lamar. He transcends in those games. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see that. It's going to be tough. But I do think that they have the pieces to get over that. But does that make sense to you in the terms of kind of like some of those games that felt very 50-50 where they just seemed to come out on the bottom side of that?
Yeah, it does. It's one of those things where it feels that way, but it keeps on happening.
You're right.
So it's like it keeps happening consistently. There's something else going on.
Really luck?
Who knows what it is? Yeah. But man, when it's Kansas City, you see these things and it's just like, how are they keep getting away with this? And so
it's true.
But anyway, so we'll see about that. But I guess the second question I have with them is kind of like, how long are we going to get to see Derrick Henry be Derrick Henry? And is he, is he going to have an Adrian Peterson kind of career where he was still pretty darn good at 33 years old? I think he could have still played in the NFL and been solid. So is he still king of the mountain, so to speak, with old Derrick Henry? But just like how much longer can he keep this going, and will he have another close to 2,000 yard season this year? So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to predict with Baltimore because they're like a season removed from like, hey, we're not going to worry about running anyone but our quarterback too much, and so. Will they continue to play like, hey, we're just going to do whatever works? As far as him getting close to 2,000 again, I think there's some questions there. But as far as like, man, him being a major producer in the NFL, it's funny. Adrian Peterson is definitely, to me, the best guy to compare to. I just think they run similar, like very violent, looking for contact, really difficult for like corners and safeties to bring down. I think that we have a few years left. Like, you can never calculate in the catastrophic injury.
Sure.
But barring that, where it's just wear and tear. For instance, you and I were talking about Ezekiel Elliott and how he is aged, and it's very obvious how much he's aged. I still feel like we have a little bit of time. I feel like Derek takes really good care of himself. I think we've seen some videos of him training in the off season and all that sort of stuff with some really impressive stuff. I think we still have some time with him, and for that to be a few more years of him being in the top 3 to 5 kind of running backs in the league. He's smart. I just wonder if he can also take a page maybe out of LaDainian Tomlinson's book about, like, hey, know when the play's over and don't take that big hit. Keep yourself going as long as you can. I don't think that's a traditional big back kind of theory to utilize, but I think it wouldn't be necessarily the worst one for him to bring in as well. What do you think? How long do you think he's got left?
I kind of agree that a few years of being dominant is, at some point it's going to start to trickle down some. I don't think it's just going to be 18 yards, 1,900 yards last year. I've forgotten off the top of my head. Might have been 19. I think it was 19. Anyway. And then 1,200 this year, and then he's just 600 after that. I don't think that's the case outside of the catastrophic injuries. So he should be able to keep going for a bit longer. But I don't know how much longer. I love the idea of someone challenging Emmitt Smith's records in my lifetime. So he's one of the guys that seems like maybe he could. So I guess we'll see. I guess he'll still probably go pretty high in fantasy. So
yeah, probably so.
Yep. But that'll pretty much wrap up our burning questions for the AFC North this year. Tell us what you think down in the comments. We're really curious to know what these teams are going to do. AFC North is always one of the best, most exciting divisions to watch, except for the Browns, which kind of come and go. But there'll be a lot of interesting storylines with them this year, if nothing else. And hopefully they've sorted out their quarterback thing long term. But I guess we'll just see. So if anyone's willing, give us a like and a subscribe. We really appreciate it. We're still trying to get to 100 by the start of the 2025 NFL season. And we appreciate everyone who's already done those things. So, we will see you all next week.